The great Roger Moore was recognized for his unforced charisma and commitment to acting. He was most known for his famous performance as James Bond. Millions of viewers have been deeply affected by Moore's depiction of Bond, whether they love him or despise him. But who exactly was the real-life inspiration for the iconic 007 unit? In his autobiography, Moore discusses his time in Hollywood, revealing details of his most despised co-stars as well as his relationships with famous people like Bette Davis and Frank Sinatra. Come along as we delve into the fascinating life narrative and behind-the-scenes drama of a Bond hero whose life was filled with surprises. Famous English actor Sir Roger Moore played James Bond in 7 films between 1973 and 1985, thus solidifying his position as one of the longest-running actors to portray the legendary spy. Moore, who was born in London on October 14, 1927, had a long and successful career in film and television. Moore had a successful acting career before becoming famous as James Bond. He was in hit TV shows including The Saint and Maverick, where he played charming characters like Beau Maverick. His charisma, intelligence, and dapper sense of style made him an ideal James Bond, as well as a distinct combination of charm and refinement to the role. Moore was well known not only for his Bond roles but also for his humanitarian work as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. This philanthropic work earned him the title of Knight in 2003. Even though Moore died on May 23, 2017, his contributions to entertainment and humanitarian causes, as well as his legacy as one of the most popular James Bond actors, are still celebrated. Roger Moore's complex network of friendships and conflicts had an indelible effect on the entertainment business before he passed away. Throughout his life, he penned multiple memoirs that provided fascinating glimpses into his professional and personal struggles, as well as his time spent working in Hollywood. Moore gives his admirers an intimate glimpse into his private life in his autobiography, My Word is My Bond, by disclosing information about his life and discussing his friendships with legendary figures like Bette Davis and Frank Sinatra. The complex world of Hollywood is revealed to fans as he candidly recounts the challenging relationships he had with some of his co-stars. Looking into Roger Moore's connections in Hollywood and the co-stars he couldn't stand is next on the agenda. Moore begins by mentioning Peter Sellers. Despite his enormous celebrity and hilarious genius, Sellers was unexpectedly unapproachable. He hid his real personality from the world by donning a variety of personas, yet he lacked genuine, meaningful relationships. Moore painted him as an enigmatic man who maintained a mask at all times. Sellers was an enigmatic and multifaceted individual. His concern with vulnerability and expressing his actual self was shown when he acknowledged that seeing himself on film would be a boring experience. Moore, like many others, found Sellers' unpredictable behavior intriguing and irritating, but he was also a challenging co-star due to his tendency to disappear into his own world. One incident that exemplified the disorder and unpredictability in Sellers' life occurred on his 1970 summer honeymoon with his third wife, Miranda Quarry. Coincidentally, the newlyweds were on a romantic getaway at Cap Ferret, in the south of France. About the same time that Roger Moore was filming The Persuaders for television, it was this serendipitous encounter that laid the groundwork for an unforgettable episode that exemplified the peculiarities frequently linked to Sellers. A drug raid did occur, but it was anything from ordinary. Leslie Bricusse, a gifted lyricist and writer and a longtime friend of Roger Moore's, and Johnny Gold were the targets of a prank perpetrated by Roger Moore and Peter Sellers. He started the world-renowned Tramp nightclub in London. While Moore and Sellers navigated their boat around the Bay of Villefranche, a customs patrol boat was arranged to pretend to catch Bricusses and Gold for speeding. Everyone couldn't help but burst into laughter as they witnessed the customs officials pretending to find a few hundred smokes and bottles of scotch that Moore and Sellers had put on their yacht. "Greetings, Peter Sellers," Johnny Gold yelled out as he waved a big white letter addressed to him. And this made everyone laugh even more. Johnny Gold presented Sellers with the enigmatic white package as they arrived at the shore. Upon opening it, the Sellers found a big quantity of white powder and a message that said it was a honeymoon present. Roger Moore has never been so near to arrest than he was during this daring yet harmless prank. That night, Sellers' utterly irrational behavior was laid bare. The contents of the envelope caused Sellers to feel euphoric. In an unexpected turn of events, Sellers enthusiastically asked Moore and others to accompany him on an imaginary journey around the harbor, believing his bed to be a flying carpet. Sellers was difficult to develop a real connection with because of his irrational behavior and tendency to become engrossed in fantasies, even if there was an obvious sense of camaraderie and shared humor between him and Moore. Grace Jones, who played the evil Mayday, and Roger Moore had a very rocky relationship during filming 1985's A View to a Kill. Grace Jones was commanding on screen as Mayday, but her antics outside of the film often frustrated Roger Moore. Tensions arose on set as a result of their different approaches to work. Jones was difficult to work with because of his strong personality and lack of predictability, which went against Moore's reputation for being conservative and punctual. Moore found it annoying that his leading ladies like Jones would spend so much time primping during breaks. Delays in filming would occur as they hurriedly retrieved their cosmetic bags, applied lipstick, and fine-tuned their looks. Moore hoped to minimize these disturbances by hiding their beauty supplies, frustrated. Unfortunately, this didn't pan out because they had multiple substitutes who prioritized their appearance over their acting skills. Moore was already annoyed by Jones before she started blasting music in her next dressing area. Jones frequently disrupted Moore's demand for silence with his loud, heavy metal music. Jones still wouldn't listen to Moore's repeated pleas to turn down the noise. After which Moore became so irritated that he stormed into Jones's room, silenced her music, and stormed back to his own room, where he threw a chair against the wall, causing a lasting dent to vent his displeasure. Famous romantic scene illustrating Moore and Jones's contrasting personalities was the outcome of their interaction. Jones, in his humorous pre-scene preparation, brought a big black dildo into the bed. Moore, in keeping with his professional demeanor, found the joke. It was clear, though, that collaborating with Jones had tested his capacity for diplomacy to its limits. One of Roger Moore's most influential co-stars, Lana Turner, is detailed in his memoirs. Moore collaborated with several cinematic heavyweights over his career, but his time spent working with Lana Turner stands out. Turner, a seasoned actress, gave Roger Moore some sound advice while they were filming the 1956 historical picture Diane, and so began their voyage together. The legendary Turner personally taught Moore the appropriate way to kiss thanks to her magnetic screen presence. The fact that Moore had been married twice without a hitch gave him confidence in his abilities, but Turner showed him a new way to do things. Without pressuring him, she taught him the value of passion. Beyond amorous settings, though, Turner's forceful personality shone through. She stood firm against rudeness and showed signs of having a strong, independent personality. One noteworthy event concerned Diane's producer, Edward Knopf. When Turner publicly ordered Knopf to fuck off, it turned a minor quarrel into a major one. Knopf fled the platform and sought solace in Moore's caravan, clearly distressed by the overwhelming response. Moore asked Turner about her harsh treatment, and Turner spoke up about her own experiences, drawing attention to the power imbalances and exploitation that young actors frequently encounter in Hollywood. Turner admitted that she was becoming even with those who had taken advantage of her in the past. A watershed point in Hervé Villechaize's life came when he played Nick Nack in the 1974 James Bond picture. The part came after Villechaize had been working as a rat catcher in Los Angeles and living in his car. He achieved professional and personal success with his portrayal of Scaramanga's loyal servant. Moore was forthright in his assessment of Villechaize's personality. According to Moore, he once told Villechaize, "Don't touch me, you are diseased," after Villechaize insisted on touching him again. Moore clarified that his remark had nothing to do with Villechaize's stature and everything to do with his insatiable libidinal urges. Moore boasted about Villechaize's sexual escapades, many of which were prostitutes, and claimed that Villechaize had an abnormal propensity to women. Even after offering money, Villechaize confessed to having been refused on occasion, despite his claims of having several sexual partners. He frequented women's clubs while filming in Hong Kong, picking them out with a light source. The audacity and promiscuity of Villechaize surprised Moore. In addition, Villechaize boasted that he had been with 35 women throughout filming when Moore inquired about the subject. Moore reached his breaking point as a result of Villechaize's actions. Moore recalled how the work environment was made unpleasant by Villechaize's constant touching and boasting. Villechaize's behavior eventually got to Moore, no matter how hard he tried to keep his cool. Their relationship was clearly strained, and Moore's annoyance was palpable when he called Villechaize a sex maniac. The role of Tattoo in the hit TV show Fantasy Island catapulted Villechaize's career to new heights. Having said that, his triumph was fleeting. In 1984, he was fired for inappropriate behavior with female cast and crew members and wage conflicts. In a tragic turn of events, Villechaize ended his life in 1993, a victim of sorrow. The long and interesting relationship between Frank Sinatra and Roger Moore is full of memorable and exciting events. Sinatra is a household figure in the entertainment industry. Despite Sinatra's and Moore's respective reputations for magnetic presence and polished film demeanor, their meetings were anything but uncomplicated. In the midst of a heated confrontation at Hollywood's Moulin Rouge in the 1950s, Moore recollects his first recollection of Sinatra. Gordon MacRae, a contract artist for Warner Brothers, accepted $1,000 from Jack Warner, the powerful head of Warner Brothers. Nevertheless, the famed cowboy John Wayne counteroffered MacRae $2,000 to refrain from singing. Sinatra, who has always been there for MacRae, took this as an attack on his friendship and confronted Wayne about it. Moore was profoundly affected by seeing Sinatra's modest but fervent protest against Wayne. After 10 years, in the middle of the 1960s, Moore's expedition ran across Sinatra again, but this time in a more relaxed setting, a restaurant in London. Mia Farrow, Sinatra's current wife, was there, and she looked lovely and young. Moore was taken aback when Farrow told him how much she loved Moore's TV show The Saint. She made an exclamation about how much they loved watching The Saint in their hotel room, and Sinatra nodded in agreement, showing that they did too. This surprise comment revealed a different side of Sinatra, one that was kinder and more approachable compared to their first encounter. Despite this, they did face some difficulties in their relationship. Moore couldn't help but bring up the intriguing and speculative subject of Sinatra's purported ties to the mafia. Sinatra's answer was both direct and illuminating. He didn't deny that the mob held sway over certain venues where he played. Speculation about Sinatra's ties to the criminal underworld was constant. The seductive risk they posed seemed to be something he even sought out. Moore pointed out that Sinatra didn't publicly deny the rumors, suggesting that he probably knew they were true and that they worked to his advantage. The connections between Sinatra and the mafia became an integral part of his mystique, whether it was through his venue choices or the individuals he associated with, whom Moore had the honor of seeing in person. During Roger Moore's lunch break at the ABPC Studios restaurant in the mid-1960s, the renowned Bette Davis was kind enough to meet him. At this very moment, Bette Davis showed up unannounced at Moore's table. She confidently introduced herself and praised Moore for his work on The Saint, as she always does. After watching it with her daughter, she raved about the show, who made an unexpected bond while praising Moore. Moore said that the compliments from the esteemed actress made him feel proud, and he even joked that he felt he had less hair to hide. Moore asked Bette to go to the dog races with him and Robert Wagner at West London's White City Stadium as their friendship blossomed. By going on the outing, Bette was able to display her vivacious and endearing personality. Moore did, however, perceive a shadowy side to her character. Moore was unnerved by the dominating side of Bette, which he swore he would never encounter, and she frequently used a demanding tone when speaking to her assistant during dinner. In addition to their connection, Moore was well informed of Bette's infamous dispute with Joan Crawford, another Hollywood celebrity. The conflict stemmed from Bette's feelings for Franchot Tone, who went on to marry Joan Crawford twice. After they finally divorced, Crawford continued to infuriate Bette by seeing to Tone as he fought cancer. She even took him to her New York flat and cared for him until he died. Even after Crawford's death, her bitterness persisted. In answer to a media question on Bette's insensitive statement, "Just because a person is dead doesn't mean they've changed," Bette continued to harbor anger towards Crawford. On the popular TV show The Persuaders, Roger Moore and Tony Curtis had a relationship that was equal parts hilarious and surprising. On set, Tony Curtis was captivating and interesting, but his frugality was also legendary, and Moore told many humorous anecdotes about it. Curtis sent a dinner invitation to Moore and his then-wife one Christmas. Curtis presented Moore the tiniest roast chicken he had ever seen, shocking Moore, who had anticipated an elaborate feast. Curtis possessed a multitude of character traits that made him an interesting individual. Even though he was extremely frugal, he had a gift for imparting unconventional advice through entertaining anecdotes. At one point, Curtis related some words of wisdom that his colleague and friend Burt Lancaster had given him. "Roger, my beloved, I remember Burt telling me that if my wife were to stroll into my dressing room at the studio while I was working with a young woman, I should keep on as before and then claim, 'But they have people who look like me,' when I got home." This humorous bit of advice really brought out Curtis's carefree personality. In a flashback that came to Roger Moore during a South African shoot, Tony Curtis had given him some advice on how to handle a potentially awkward scenario involving a woman. A young woman he was filming with gave off the impression that she wanted some space from the crew, which led him to believe that they would have more fun if they were alone. Moore couldn't help but think of his Italian wife, who was downstairs and aware that his stunt double wasn't available that day, while Curtis's comments continued to echo in his mind. Regardless of these quirks, Moore enjoyed Curtis's company and thought their partnership was valuable. Their unique personalities and eccentric work ethic made filming The Persuaders an experience they will never forget. Whether he was working or just dropping by, Sammy Davis Jr.'s enthusiasm for the film industry shone through. Roger Moore frequently had Sammy on site when filming Maverick. Throughout this time, Sammy honed his abilities, mastered the art of pistol drawing, and became an outstanding gun twirler. Sammy made an unforgettable entrance at a dinner party that Leslie Bricusse hosted in the 1980s at his Los Angeles mansion. Sammy exhibited his one-of-a-kind sense of humor when he arrived by casually opening his jacket and passing his gun to the housekeeper, as if it were merely a cap. No matter how serious the subject, he could always find a humorous way to address or divert attention. Sammy Davis Jr. was well known for his hilarious antics, which he used to poke fun at his own shortcomings. "You got it easy," he had overheard someone complaining about prejudice once. "As a black Jew, I am short, unattractive, and have one eye. How do you imagine it feels for someone like me?" Many people loved him because he could laugh at himself. Moore was deeply affected by his final meeting with Sammy. Moore discovered Sammy, who had always been skinny and little, increasingly more fragile and near death a month before he passed away. The throat cancer that Sammy was battling had spread quickly. Despite the fact that a laryngectomy was recommended as a means to increase his survival rate, he chose to keep his voice instead. Moore said that Davis was an incredibly courageous and tough person, displaying an utter commitment to his art form. Moore exhibits his caring personality and profound admiration for individuals who courageously confront adversity, and his thoughts and feelings for Sammy Davis Jr. His contributions to film and television, particularly his role as James Bond, continue to be celebrated today.